I wish to introduce this bill in private members' debate, further to it having been published back in December 2018 by my colleague Darragh Killeary, whom had responsibility for our party in this area. And it's the developments of recent weeks in relation to the National Children's Hospital overrun and the mismanagement and poor management of that process as administered by government only serve to highlight the need for many improvements to be made in the way in which capital development projects are administered and delivered in the state. And it's against that background that we saw fit to use this time to reintroduce that bill, to ask government to take on board the recommendations contained within it. And they acknowledge the Controller and Auditor General's role as it is presently constituted to investigate, to analyse and scrutinise a capital development programme once it's completed, and to make recommendations thereafter and to be available for questioning to various all-party committees of this House. It's an independent office which has done great work in that regard and contributed in no small way to legislation that has ensued as a result of their intricate scrutiny of various programmes. However, we believe, rather than the government in this instance, for example, employing the offices of the private service to carry out an investigation of the processes that brought us to a situation where obviously a very poor and porous contract contributed towards the state carrying the can for such overruns as became apparent last August, and on which the government acted on, only having been made aware in December subsequently. If it were such that this legislation could be passed through the Houses, it would allow and accommodate that office and the expertise contained within it the opportunity to intervene at a much earlier period, if and when ceilings are passed in relation to expenditure associated with national development programmes and capital projects. And that, for example, in this instance, if it were in place, would have saved the state what we're led to believe is up to 500,000 which has been paid over. And that's notwithstanding the lessons that we can learn immediately, and the government would seek to preempt any such reporting when it made various suggestions out of today's cabinet meetings in relation to how contracts should not be divided in two, as they were in this instance, as to how previous performance on the part of low-ball bidders especially, that there be some weight attached to the performance that they've had in the past and so forth. But that is coming after the event. The legislation that was put before the House previously by my colleague would have catered for such an analysis that is now costing £500,000. And it is incumbent, we believe, on government and all parties to accept the recommendations as contained within here. And we have with us chairpersons of the Oireachtas committees in Finance and the PAC, whom in their capacity as members of our party, of course, will support the recommendation which emanates from it in this regard, but will also add their voice of reason, their voice of experience in relation to recent analysis, recent investigations and recent scrutiny by their respective committees, and the help and assistance that they would have received from the intricate and inquisitive work of the Controller and Auditor General's Office. And they too will add their voice, and I'm sure it would be the collective voice of the respective committees that they would appreciate the alteration of this legislation to allow Controller and Auditor General that privilege on our behalf, to ensure that there is independent assistance and oversight funded by the taxpayer and acknowledged by the taxpayer considering the great track record that is there for all to see heretofore in relation to that office. Thank you very much.